Saintess summons skeletons. By Morn. Chapter 581, The Meat of the Matter. You really taught yourself all that only with the things in your domain? Sofia asked. Yes. The previous Speed had been orchestrating this for his successor, I believe. I still have no idea why he would have ended himself, but things were prepared for me to have an easy start, no doubt. After going through the entire bookshelf, it was only a matter of time before I grew bored of the domain and started to try to look outside. Did you even know how to leave? I got stranded inside of Peace's domain once, and I really had no idea how to leave. You got Peace? That couldn't have ended well. Sofia chewed a bit on the piece of meat she had just forked into her mouth, and swallowed it before answering. He just erased me from the neck down when he ejected me out of there. I've survived much worse. Aha, just from the neck down. I'm starting to doubt who's the god and who's from the mortal race here, Speed commented, scratching his horn. Sofia's fork stabbed another piece of meat. She absent-mindedly waved it in front of her mouth as she answered. The distinction is a bit strange to begin with, since the divinities can also die. I used to think gods were like, well, gods. But there's no such thing as someone who can do or survive anything, I've come to learn. Everyone's got their limits. Maybe that's why I don't feel any pressure anymore talking to you or dragons or anyone, it's all kind of just people, she concluded, finally sticking the fork in her mouth. Yeah, fair. I grew up surrounded by mortals and gods living together as well, so I get that. We're just born and die differently, is the gist of it. What's in the middle is entirely what you make of it. Still though, I had yet to meet someone who seems so dismissive about their potential death. Sofia stopped chewing, she swallowed outright to answer, you got me wrong. It's not as if I'm not scared of death or anything like that. Not at all, actually. I've lived through a death a bit more real than usual lately, and it's been terrifying to even remember. I just quite confident in my eventual survival? It's like I'll do anything to survive in the end. I care about the future. No point in staying stuck in the past. That's quite the way to see things. You sound a bit like my father. Your father? Sofia repeated, utterly confused. Adoptive, kind of. Circling back to your earlier question, no, I did not know how to leave. Not for the physical plane, anyway. But I was able to move around and explore the domain of other gods. That's not the easiest thing to do, but I am Speed, after all, so there are rules that apply differently for me. Anyway, I eventually burst into Water's domain, and if you know anything about Water, he's not the kind to let his things unguarded. So I got caught, and one thing leading to another, I started living here in the physical plane with him and his wife. That's why I look like I do, in fact, since Lady Enya is a vampire. Oh wow! Your family history is actually almost as mind-boggling as mine. Almost? Just how messy was your childhood? And actually, what are you, even? Your sister looked human but... Sofia laughed. You accepted a date without even knowing that. Yet? What? You look good, you're quite strong, and you sound crazy enough to actually try to date a god seriously. Do you think I get that kind of opportunity every day? Pfft, I'm sure if you took off that mask more often you would have plenty of young ladies running after you. Speed sighed at that remark. I know that, but what good could it do to mingle with young humans, vampires, or Endorians? I know I'm destined to outlive most of them. I would rather stay alone than give a poor girl an unfulfilling life without children as she grows older and dies while I'm stuck just existing forever. But with me it's fine. Looking at your age and your level, if you were initially a human like your sister, then at least I don't have to worry about outliving you. Though I'm getting the feeling that you will not be dying of old age anyway. Well. Yeah, that sounds about right. I kind of do want children though. Like, probably at least one, eventually. Speed seemed a little taken aback by that revelation. And you have been recklessly leveling all the way up to a monoheart despite that? Do you know? I am well aware. But if dragons can still reproduce, then I don't see why I couldn't. Creation even designed the race with that in mind, so it should work fine even after I continue to level. Probably. I might not be a suitable suitor for you, then, Speed admitted, finally taking another bite of his food. Why, do you dislike kids? You didn't seem like the type. Have you forgotten that I am God? Speed asked, incredulous, I cannot have kids. Not with you, nor with anyone else, for that matter. This conversation was starting to draw images in Sofia's imagination that made her blush even though she lacked proper blood. She was also starting to wonder whether this was really an appropriate conversation for a first date, as it felt a bit embarrassing to discuss these things with someone who was by all accounts still just an acquaintance. Speed must have misinterpreted Sofia's silence and expression, however, as he set his cutlery down on the table with another sigh. I knew this wouldn't work, I don't know what I was thinking. He started to stand up. I'll just go pay, you can take your tea. Sofia reached over the table, grabbing his wrist before he could leave. Why are you leaving? Hey? I thought. You thought what? Get your godly ass back down on this chair. This meat is way too good to waste, first of all, and also, I'm not about to get abandoned halfway through my first date. Is it just because of the kids thing? Speed looked truly flabbergasted, but he sat back down without a word. So it's not a deal breaker, he finally asked while Sofia stuffed her mouth. Sofia looked puzzled at this god's incomprehension. She answered with her mouth full, way past the point of caring for the basic decorum, of course not. I mean, it's a bit of an issue but that doesn't mean it's like. Finding it difficult to articulate, she swallowed and took a second to measure her next words. What I meant to say is, it's probably not as impossible as you think. Just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it cannot happen, and also, I was the one who asked a god on a date, do you think I would then reject you because of that? Please, I am not that petty. That is surprising. I have to say. I wish I could share your enthusiasm, though. With a dark expression, he continued, at best I could create a demigod but that is hardly an actual offspring unless you bear another man's. Sofia dropped her fork. You. What? I didn't mean like that. That's horrendous. The sheer implications of this. Would anyone even be happy with such an arrangement? Even forgetting about what that would mean for all the people involved, just imagine being that child. I don't want to be that kind of mother. Sorry. I really don't like the sound of it either, but the children of gods just aren't a thing, if not that. Even with a physical form like this. There is a reason most gods end up living out their eternity alone, Speed concluded, sounding resigned. He at least looked like he agreed with Sofia, and he started eating again. We should probably drop that subject for now. We're not. We barely know each other, anyway, Sofia said, if this conversation ever needs to happen again, it can wait. True that, Speed agreed, visibly instantly relaxing. It was a good thing to mention, though, I think. At least we know where we stand. Right. There's a lot more to be said about a lot of other things if we ever were to try taking this any further. But well. Maybe we should start by getting to know each other on a simpler level first. We skipped a lot of steps, I think. That we did. I hope you like the place I chose? So at least I'd have gotten one step correct. Oh yeah. The food is great, are you kidding? If you're not finishing your plate I'll be stealing what's left, and no god in this world can stop me, Sofia warned him, the meat in Speed's plate starting to slowly rise up as Sofia controlled its bone to shift closer to her side of the table. What? You're crazy, I'm eating it all, I'm the one paying for it, you know. Speed answered, pulling back his plate with his fork planted into the meat. Ha, I'm not the one who tried to leave in the middle of the meal. You'll learn that one cannot just leave grilled meat unprotected around me. I almost got the specialization of grill master, I'll have you know, Sofia bantered with a giggle as she let go of her control over the meat's bones and Speed's plate. You could have been a grill master and instead you've become a necromancer? I'm not one to judge but you've made some really raw career choices. Hey, it's Saintess not Necromancer, my class name is bad enough as it is, no need to butcher it. Speed smirked, pointing his fork at Sofia. Oh, far from me the idea of mocking it, it certainly sounds like a rare class. Sofia leaned back, crossing her arms with a sly grin. At least I live up to the name, unlike Mr. Slow Roasted over here with his plate still half full. Speed rolled his eyes, jabbing at his plate with his fork. Oh, you're one to talk, Miss Bone Grabber. If you're going to respect the names, the dish is meat on the bone, not bone in the bag, he said, insistently looking at Sofia's storage ring. Sofia gasped in mock outrage. How dare you? I'm no petty bone thief, I'll have you skewered for these boneless accusations. Chapter 582, Spam Mail. And that's it for my early childhood basically, I would say it stops there. As you can guess, I managed to reunite with Saria later, that was only like 3 years ago though. Lots of stuff happened in between. Sofia finished her story as she ate the last bit of her second plate of meat. You really just stabbed the guy like that? No hesitation, nothing? Speed asked, surprised by the levity of Sofia's description of what was essentially her first murder. Yeah, stabbed him in his face. I barely had the time to worry about it really, it was just a matter of doing what needs to be done to escape. Saw an opportunity and I grabbed it. That was probably when my obsession with bones started, actually. I had been holding onto that thing for days, waiting for a chance to do something with it. I just wanted to try to use it to break the lock of my chains, initially, but bone against steel doesn't work that well. In the end, this one bone's the reason I'm still alive today. That's certainly a crazy story. Oh, that's not even half of it. Just look at me now, with all the shit I have been up to these last few years, you could probably write a book. Several books. Why don't you, then? You're not bad at telling stories, I'm sure people would be interested in reading that. No time. I'm not sure it's that interesting anyway. And most of all, that would be a bit too dangerous. Because of my extended family. They're not very keen on being featured in literature. You mean Sorrow and the other demons? Speed asked. Not quite. Do you remember the name from my status? A fae. Something? Sorry, I'm not very good with names. That's all right. That's for the better, actually. If we ever have a second date I'll explain more about it, Sofia finally said, deciding to keep this touchy subject for later. Sure. Should I? Speed stopped speaking as the avian waiter walked up to their table. Honored guests, has the food been to your taste so far? It was delicious, Sofia happily answered, and Speed nodded in agreement. Good to hear, the waiter said, I stopped by to warn you that tonight's musical performance will be starting in the theater right below us in a bit. You may be relocated to a calmer place if you wish, or stay to enjoy the show from this vantage point. Sofia and Speed looked at each other. Sofia shrugged, so Speed answered, we will stay here, thank you for asking. Understood, please call me if you have any request, the waiter told them before turning around. Wait. Sofia called out. Yes, the avian waiter asked, turning back. Is this place entirely run by avians? Sofia asked. Indeed. The lodge is a family business, the waiter proudly answered. We 7 siblings have been managing Hell's Gate Lodge for almost 500 years since our parents' regretful passing. That's, Sofia was a bit lost for words, my condolences. It has been long, no need for any kind words, but thank you for your concern. Why the interest in our establishment, if I may ask, the waiter questioned. An avian friend of mine has been searching for other survivors, mostly unsuccessfully, so I was curious. Is that so? The waiter answered in surprise, his voice not as composed as it was prior. Well, we are no survivors, our parents were. Nevertheless, please tell your friend to come visit us. We would be glad to meet them. Oh right. Since you are second-generation survivors, is that why you do not share the same language quirks? I certainly will tell her, she will be happy too, I'm sure. The waiter cackled in the same eerie bird noises Sofia had gotten used to from hanging out with teacher Eternam in Brythal. Our kin is rare as it is, we would be glad to meet another survivor, he said. We actually hold semi-regular meetings here, there are about 30 of us, but being a race of natural hermits, we know many survivors must still be scattered about, much like your friend. That certainly doesn't help. Speaking of which, I am surprised Eternam has not told her about this place. Does he not know? Sofia mumbled. The waiter clearly ticked when he heard the name, Eternam? Are you referring to Professor Aoldun from Exidia? Are you acquainted with him? The waiter asked with insistence, and bulging eyes, drawing closer to the table. Speed disappeared from his chair. Standing next to the table he placed a hand in front of the waiter. Hey, respect a lady's space, will you? The waiter stopped with a jolt. Blinking several times, he took a step back and apologized. My apologies for my reaction. It's just, we've tried to contact him for so long. No harm done, Sofia said with a shrug. Is there something wrong with Eternam? The waiter cleared his throat and explained, the thing is, we have been aware of Professor Aoldun's existence for a few years. But he has never answered a single one of our letters. Despite several attempts to communicate, we have never heard back from him. Not a single time. Really? That's strange, Sofia started, before remembering exactly what kind of a person Eternam was. He barely even gave the time of day to fellow professors if they had no shared interests like necromancy. Who knew what he might do to a letter from an unknown sender? They might end up directly into his chimney without even being opened. Maybe not so strange. Do you want me to send him a letter in your stead? I worked with him for a while. You did? Speed and the waiter both asked in unison. I was a replacement professor at Brythall for a year, Sofia casually answered, showing them her Exidian ID, then taking a letter-sized paper-thin bone slate from her storage. She scribbled a few lines on it with her nail-guiding bone dominus, and stuffed that into an envelope, which she held out to Speed. Sorry to give you work during our date, but can you deliver that after we're done? I'll pay you. Whenever I get another stone. Speed rolled his eyes, but took the envelope. He turned to the waiter to explain, I deliver mail for a living, if that Eternam guy answers you will get it here in under a week. If not I'll at least confirm that he did receive the letter. That would be, the waiter started. It took him a while to properly sort his thoughts, and after confirming a few details with Sofia and Speed, and profusely apologized for disturbing their meal for so long, disappearing to take care of the other guests. He came back a while later with two of his siblings, who thanked Sofia and Speed them for their help, insisting that the meal was on the house, and that they could order as much dessert as they wanted until the lodge closed for the day. As the three avians left them to their dessert, Speed leaned back in his chair. I can't believe you ended up paying for the meal anyway. I didn't, though. Sofia argued. Yeah you did, you're the one helping them reunite with another avian, not me. You're the one delivering the letter, though? I'd say it's more on you, I just wrote a few words. True, but... I guess we both paid, then. Fine. But I'm paying next time, Speed decisively announced. Oh, so there will be a next time, you think? Do you not want to? Speed asked, looking immediately downcast. Sofia giggled, I don't mind a second time. You still haven't told me about your story with water yet. Oh. Oops. There was just so much to talk about with just your story, I got sidetracked. Well, there's still time before we have to leave. I think it's better to keep it for next time, Sofia said, I'm sure I'll be getting sidetracked asking you a lot of questions as well, no reason to rush it. How about we explore lighter subjects to end the night on a lighter note? Speed nodded, no point ruining a sweet dessert with a sour story, we can talk about hobbies, then? And I don't mean bone collecting. You have very beautiful handwriting, do you write a lot? You barely got to see me write, Sofia answered with a smirk, my handwriting is quite mediocre, actually. My magic writing though, very clean, very refined. Since I can sculpt bone, I trained it for precision. I can carve beautiful words with ease now, much easier than carving convincing faces. That would be my other real hobby, probably, besides reading and collecting bones, just sculpting. Look, I've got quite a few of those, Sofia said, taking out small bone figurines of monsters and people. This one is Saria in her Brythall student uniform. She was there as a student while I played teacher. Not bad, right? Can I touch them? Speed asked. Go ahead, just don't break it. Of course. Speed delicately picked up one of the sculptures representing a wolf, he turned it around, looking at the details. That's impressive, honestly, you're a really good sculptor. Thanks. This is what I do to relax. It trains my magic too, so it's a perfect guilt-free hobby. What about you? Do you just run? Running is hardly a hobby when your name is Speed. I appreciate slower activities, actually, it's a good change of pace. I have been painting since I was around 10, mostly portraits. As a bunch of essence without a real form, I always found the idea of a face being yours truly fascinating. I don't have any of my art with me, but I could show you next time, if you want, Speed suggested. I would love to see that, Sofia happily agreed, her attention turning back to the sweet cake on her plate. Chapter 583, I don't even know. The date half of their arrangement being over, Sofia and Speed ended up outside at the top of the volcano the lodge was built under, sitting on the ledge of the volcano at an arm's length from each other, they admired the sunrise. Time for the main course? Sofia asked with a smirk. I thought you said you were full. I always have some extra space for some bones, or a dead god. I've realized I might have messed up, though, Sofia admitted. How so? Well, you said the previous Speed died in his domain, right? Yet. Sofia raised her right hand, and took out Aphinaretha's glove, showing Speed the ring on her middle finger. This thing is the reason I need dead gods. Here, let me show you the system identification. Speed quickly read the window, the Annihilator. Ominous name. Sofia stared at Speed, slightly worried, but thankfully nothing happened. Is there something on my face? It's... You shouldn't say that out loud. I shouldn't. Yet. Same thing for my full name. I'll explain next time, but it's better not to say them, for everyone's safety. Speed scratched his head, I'm not following, but sure. Just trust me on this, please. Anyway, the item description, you've read it all, right? Do you see the issue? I do. Doesn't sound like you can absorb remains from gods who passed in their domain. I don't think you could even see the item out there, even, unless it's made from divine essence. It's a very special item, I guess you could guess that, but I don't think it's made of essence, no. So. Probably no dead god for me tonight, Sofia said with a shrug. Ah, shit. Sorry. No need to apologize, I'm the one who failed to ask for basic information. Besides, it could still work anyway, no reason not to try. If it fails, then it fails. I already didn't pay for the meal. Do you want something else instead? I don't have much besides money but... Not really, Sofia interjected, I'm fine. Is it a lot of trouble to bring me to your domain for a bit? Not at all, no. You might have a hard time adapting to the environment there, but I suppose if you could handle Peace's domain it should be fine? I'm thinking it probably isn't going to lead anywhere though, are you really sure you don't want anything else? I mean... It's not like I really had to pay you anything, tonight was fun, I would have done it for free, really. I would have paid for my food, even, if I wasn't so broke currently. But if you insist, I wouldn't mind getting to meet water. You. I can arrange that, but why? If you want dead gods you would have a better chance asking Sun. Oh, I will ask Sun too. If I even need to. I would not even be surprised if she were watching us right now, her divine rune is permanently tattooed on my soul so I can hardly hide from her. Speed turned and stared at Sofia without a word. What? It's a free mana regeneration bonus, do you know how rare those are? I had to go on a quest for her and all, Sofia explained herself. Speed turned back to look at the sunrise again, it feels like the more you speak the less I understand about you. Sofia crystalline laughter illuminated the early morning. Told you, could write several books with all the stuff I've been up to. If this is enough to make you speechless, wait until you see what I look like in the divine plane, you're going to have many questions, she teased with a giggle. It was Speed's turn to shrug nonchalantly, infinity plus many is still infinity. Come on, it's not that bad, I'm still young, imagine what it must be like when two of those old 10,000-year-old monsters start to share life stories. Sofia heard Speed's voice. It was distant, and echoed strangely, getting more and more distorted the longer it repeated. Sofia, it asked. Sofia, can you hear me? She focused on her hands first, trying to visualize their shape as she felt her divine essences floating around. Slowly the energy started taking form. Light sculpted the shape of her entire body, though vague and blurry, it shone with the strength of many essences. Sofia could finally see. I'm here, she told the strange godly form of Speed holding her wrist. He was even more blurry and strange, like a constantly evaporating man of blue-purple fire, his blank face full of round holes placed in the exact same way as the holes of his physical form's mask. Thank the lords he doesn't look like Peace. No eyes anywhere. Can you hear me? Can you see? How does it feel? Speed asked, his voice coming from everywhere all at once. Yes, everything is fine. It feels a bit breezy, strangely, Sofia answered. Is this your divine rune? She asked, her free hand pointing at her own face. My head? Yes. Sorry for the disturbing sight. Much less disturbing than peace or death, I assure you. And I look strange myself, so who cares, Sofia told him as she looked around. So this is your domain? Why is it in ruins? Speed's domain looked like the remains of an ancient civilization in the clouds, there were ruins of what one could easily imagine were gigantic buildings, but very little remained. Everywhere one could see huge blocks with a stony texture, some still standing in low walls, some fallen and broken on the ground, along with remains of ornate pillars and sculptures. Very few buildings still stood, most of them rather small. Perhaps the strangest thing was that the entire thing seemed to be built on a big fluffy cloud. Sofia and Speed were both outside of the city, standing on said cloud right at that moment, ever so slightly sinking into it every second that passed. This was all built by the previous owner, Speed explained, inspired by existing ruins of the lost epoch, I believe. Never seen them myself, but this was Water's opinion. That. I think I know exactly what it's inspired by, actually. Now that you said that, the similarities are striking. What would that be? Do you know about Velour d'Argent? Sofia asked. Velour. I feel like I've heard the name before, but that's it. When's Saintess? Sofia clarified. Oh. The Fox Lady? I have heard about her, yes. Never met, however. That's the one, her home looks a bit like that. It's not on a cloud but it's in the sky, and it's a bunch of old ruins very similar to these. I suppose it is time I go pay her a visit soon, then. Ah, come, you are going to fall through if we stay here. Sofia followed Speed through his domain, walking against the wind, taking in the sights as the sights took her in. Here as well, just like in Death's domain, she saw the eyes. The more she looked for them, the more she found, the shape of cracks in the bricks, the faded mural carvings, the twisting and turning clouds in between the buildings, eyes shapes were everywhere. Hard not to feel watched. The divine planes truly are disturbing. As they walked through the ruins, Sofia broke the silence. Are you not going to ask about the essences? She questioned. Speed was walking a few steps in front of her, he turned his head as he kept walking. Well, you warned me. I would ask about it, but I'm afraid it will only raise more questions. The bright ones are all from Sun, right? 5 of them, yes. I helped Sun with a sensitive matter and this is the reward I got in return, pretty much. Some crazy reward, that. Can I ask what that help was about, or is it really sensitive still? It's got to do with my name and the Annihilator. I'll explain next time, Sofia answered. Next time, next time. You keep saying that, but when and where are we doing a next time? I'm going to be busy for a while. Is a year and a half from now too long? What are you going to do that will keep you busy for almost 2 years? Speed answered with a question of his own. Leveling up to 299, then going on an expedition to harvest a dead god, quickly leveling up my skills, then getting the best score possible in the 4th trial is currently the plan. Tight schedule. I didn't expect Morn to want to go for the next trial so soon, but I'll have to make do with it. I promised Sun to take the trial with her Saintess. Thanks for getting me that answer from Morn so fast, by the way. Just doing my job. And why not just focus on your skills right away if you are not going to be able to fully prime the ring before the trial anyway? Aren't you taking the trials too lightly? Speed asked as he took a turn to enter one of the ruins that were still standing that looked a bit like an administrative building with a lot of desks lining the walls. Because it's a 2-for-1 deal, I know of the corpse of a dead god and have a class quest with very good rewards in the same general location. There's a 66% chance the reward I get from the quest will be useless for now, but if I hit the 33%, I'll crush the trial with my eyes closed, I'm pretty sure. Much better potential gain than spending the same few months grinding a few skill levels. Not to mention that my skills will level just from using them during that time anyway. Speed nodded along Sofia's explanation, taking several turns through the building, eventually reaching a set of stairs and starting to go down. Sounds like you have things well planned out. I'll happily say that I'm fine with not having to deal with any of that leveling and trials stuff. All I really have to worry about is amassing more knowledge and more practice doing the things I want to do, and that's it. Still, that's a bit long. How about you take a day off to come visit my place before your next trial instead of after? That way I can get you a meeting with Water too. Do you think there's a chance Water would sell me or trade an essence or two? Speed stopped in his tracks, turning around and looking up at Sofia a few steps behind him. Wah! I mean, maybe, but, no, seriously, what do you need so much essence for? You already have more than me. Sofia laughed. It's settled then. Don't forget you promised to show me your paintings. Chapter 584, Heroic Speculations. The stairs under the administrative building led to another level of the ruined cloud city, which was apparently built like somewhat of an inverted pyramid on multiple layers of clouds. There, Speed led Sofia to the edge of the level. What happens if I fall? Sofia asked while she followed Speed along the edge. I'll catch you and bring you back up, Speed answered as he kept walking. Come on, you know what I meant. Alright, well. If I were to fall, I would end up in whatever domain we might be flying above right now, which could be pretty much anywhere, but if you were to fall, you would probably be booted back out to the physical plane because your essence body went too far from your actual body. The physical plane and this one do not overlap one-to-one, but there is some link. I pretty much guessed that when you said we had to catch up to your domain in the physical plane. It certainly makes it interesting how I managed to end up in Peace's domain while out in space. Speed laughed. It makes sense. Peace would seek to be far from the planet, doesn't it? Sure does, but then it's hard to imagine anyone else really ending up there, so it's interesting that everyone seems to know about Peace's tendency to be nasty to uninvited guests. Well, as I said, the overlap is not one-to-one, I'm not even certain how to describe it either, but part of Peace's domain has to still be accessible from somewhere on the planet, he'd be dead otherwise. Gotta stay close to get his essence? Now that I think about it, you gods are all stuck on Veliadron and its surroundings, aren't you? Speed kept walking, looking over the edge at the strange void below. Pretty much. The stronger you are, the furthest you can go. Sun is special, since her celestial body is so far away already, she must be able to go even further, but I've no doubt she's limited just like the rest of us. You're all trapped here, in a way. That's a bit sad. Speed shrugged. Is there even any reason to want to go further? What's out there? The hero worlds, probably. I'd say the advantages of being a divinity far outweigh the negatives. Hard to argue with that, but I like the feeling of having unlimited possibilities and potential. Maybe one day I'll go visit the hero worlds myself, who knows? I wouldn't bet on that. It's just my theory, but I personally think the hero worlds are extinct. Sofia stopped in her tracks. What? Speed also stopped, turning around. I'll have the system's enforcers on my back if I say too much. But if I had to give a sneaky hint, summoning is really the wrong word when it comes to what actually happens with the heroes. Very wrong. That's all I can tell you. Sofia wanted to ask more questions, but she also did not want Speed to get in trouble because of her curiosity. Let's shelve the subject then, thank you for the hint. Speed nodded. We're almost there, by the way. He turned around and pointed at a spot in the distance where the clouds went a bit further than the boundaries of the ruins. Sofia looked there, but her vision instantly turned blurry. I can't see whatever you're pointing out, it's just a big blur, she told Speed. That's the corruption your ring's description spoke of, Speed explained. I have no idea how that manifests in the physical world, but here, this is what we get. It's like an echo of the old Speed. I can go a bit closer, but halfway there is about where I'll stop. Going closer is dangerous for me. Really? That's not reassuring. Do you think I will be all right? Sofia asked. Honestly, no clue. It's up to you whether you want to try going closer or not. But the previous Speed died right there, that I am certain of. Following his words, Speed accompanied Sofia a bit further and stopped. I'm starting to feel it, the old Speed's influence is encroaching on mine. I should stop here. I feel nothing wrong, Sofia commented. I'll be going, then, wait for me. Speed nodded. Be careful, if you start feeling ill, come back right away. Will do. With these last few words, Sofia departed. She had to stop following the edge, as a ruin blocked the passage. So she went further into the ruined city, first walking in between buildings, until she joined a main paved street that led straight to the blurry part of the edge. The hero world's extinct. That can't be right, or else why would the hero admin try to go back? That would be completely pointless. Still, there must be something going on, else why would the summonings be a one-way ticket? If not even the hero admin can teleport himself back to his world, there must be a reason. The heroes tend to get censored when they talk about history and technology, but I'm relatively sure now that they come from different epochs. Just talking to Everell and Alith, one would believe they came from different worlds altogether, yet it really seems to be the same. Is this just another consequence of time being dead? Or is there more at play there? If summoning is the wrong word, then what is the correct one? Certainly not teleportation. Summonings are supposed to be excruciatingly painful to the soul, though, just like teleportation, so how do we explain that? Are heroes originally all ghosts? Just souls without a body, then when we summon, we grab them and rebuild their original body while deleting their memory of ever being a ghost? Maybe it's the turning back from an undead to a living being that's painful? That would explain why Lith felt nothing. I'll have to share those theories with her. We're going to have a lot of time to chat anyway. I doubt anyone else will follow us where we have to go. Maybe Saria? She doesn't have the blessing though, so I would rather not. Sofia's train of thoughts had to stop as she herself stopped. She had reached the end of the street. In front of her was an arched gate, like one would expect to see at the entrance of a noble's garden. Beyond that was the blur. It was impossible to tell exactly what was going on the other side, but nothing seemed to be moving, at the very least, which gave Sofia some reassurance. Sofia looked at her hand sculpted in light. There was no trace of the ring there, but she had to wonder whether she was currently benefiting from its effects anyway, as it was meant to provide protection from the corruption, and she still felt completely fine, standing right next to the blurry gate. Cautiously, she poked the blur with a finger. It felt like nothing, but as her finger reached the limit, it, too, started to blur. Then it took shape again, looking as it should, before blurring for another fraction of a second, and fixing itself again. That must be the ring fighting back. I might still be able to absorb that dead god after all, physical plane or not. Nevertheless, it took Sofia a full minute of slowly going further and further before she was comfortable enough to fully enter the blurry zone, her head going in last. The blur became slightly less intense. Now that she was inside, she could vaguely see things. First of all, this was not just a stray bit of cloud. The paved street continued past the edge for a dozen meters, before finishing in a round platform overlooking the void below. Secondly, there was a tall chair in the middle of the round platform, its back facing Sofia. At least I think that's a chair? This is like looking at the world through an ice cube. Sofia wanted to walk up to the chair, but she quickly noticed that the faster she walked, the more her form turned increasingly blurry, so she slowly advanced, taking a pause between every step to give her form time to fix itself. I wonder if to a god that would be painful. Probably. I think I just don't feel anything since this isn't my actual body. Hopefully this isn't hurting all the gods I have an essence of. Though scripture would deserve it. After a long while, Sofia finally reached the chair and was able to not only confirm that it was indeed a tall back chair, but also that someone was sitting on it. That someone, however, was the most blurry of all things nearby. It was hard to make out anything other than a vaguely humanoid, imposing shape in the same bluish-purple tones as everything else was in this plane. Sofia's right hand threw itself at the blurry figure. She never wanted to do that, it simply happened. Her vision and senses were engulfed by the divine colors. Chapter 585, The Absolute Limit. Foreign memories crept up in Sofia's mind like a waking dream. She was in someone else's body, looking through their eyes, but it was confused, overwhelming. She understood nothing of what she saw, until, all of a sudden, it calmed down. Sitting naked in the dirt, in the middle of nowhere, the person in the memories laughed, looking up at the blue sky. Is this the old Speed? She could feel the person's emotions, somewhat. Relief, excitement, pride. A joyful cocktail that had ingrained this moment in their memory forever. It was short-lived, the scene shifted and warped, a countryside landscape turning into that of a bustling city. Humans were busy, walking to and fro, but the person paid them no attention, just like they did not pay him any. Dressed in peasant clothes, he joined a long line of young people. Everyone's faces were blurry and faded, the details of the shops in the street and the passing carriages were similarly undecipherable, but Sofia could read one piece of text. Above the gates the people were lined up to enter, a large golden plaque was etched with a few words, that the person in the memory kept staring at. Ancient Human. Sofia could tell. Royal Line Guard Academy of Science. The scene warped again. The person was waiting nervously near some kind of altar. There seemed to be many people around, but it was all a giant blur, as if none of them had any importance. The location itself was blurry. Sofia could not understand what this was about, until a young woman made her entrance from a distance. She had beautiful black hair cascading over her white robe. Looking up at the person near the altar, she smiled. A wedding. This memory was the last semi-coherent one, soon overturned by a flurry of scenes and images following each other so fast that Sofia could barely understand anything. Joy, pain, love, anger, overwhelming emotions swole up and recessed, and eventually the plentiful images ceased. Brutally, everything had stopped. Everything turned grey. Sorrow and nostalgia was all that was left. In the grey world, a single thing remained, one dreadful image, a lonely grave in a city's giant cemetery. Ophelia Deeps. 4858, 4940. The world around the grave started moving like a whirlwind, but only the grave stayed as the core of the memory. The world was grey, without taste, without emotion. The image of the academy's gates flashed by again, new bright young people were lining up in front of it, yet the memory was forlorn and cold. What followed, Sofia could barely even begin to analyze, for it flashed by so fast, dozen upon dozen of equation-covered blackboards, mathematics that one could barely even fathom could make any sense, questions upon questions upon questions. Chalk-stained hands, wrote and wrote, yet the final equal sign never gave any answer. People came and went, many stared at the blackboards in amazement and wonder, yet the person in the memories was unsatisfied. He pushed further and further, until he found a most peculiar answer: speed. For the second time Sofia heard the person laugh, but it was not the same. It was a lot darker this time, fueled by the loathing irony of this solution to his problems. The person returned to something they had abandoned, a purple world of blue hues, strange eyes staring everywhere from the swirls of this empty cloud in a forlorn realm. The rituals they had used to escape so long ago were still where they had been left, untouched despite the fleeting centuries. From here on, the memories were clearer, as if fresher in the person's mind, but they also flashed by much faster. Unable to focus, the person started building a city on the clouds, a mirage of the places they once knew, a pristine, yet soulless recreation of the human city he no longer wished to return to alone. The familiar but silent environment helped him focus on his goals. Speed. It all came back to this simple concept. More speed. That was all he needed. Speed trained his speed. Again and again and again. Even as the city in the clouds started to crumble, speed needed to go faster and faster. Always faster. Sofia did not understand why. The memories were overlapping and unclear, mushed together by the god's obsession. And on a fateful day, Speed reached his goal. But whatever he had expected to find was not what had been waiting for him at the end of the road. Instead, he discovered that his equations were wrong. This was the clearest of the entirety of Speed's memory, starting from a fully blackened vision. For the first time, Sofia could hear his voice, defeated. So this is the true limit. I was a fool. His vision expanded. It was not black, it was the void. The endless voice of space. The universe, everything. It was not Sofia's first time being subject to this vision. Ormancleith. The vision crumbled. But the memories were not over. Speed woke up just in time to save himself, hastily saving his essence from the brink of collapse, grabbing the last one which had been trying to escape him. He forced the essence back into his divine body. Standing up, he returned to the ruined city in his domain. There, he prepared many things, though those memories were faint at best, overshadowed by constant visions of horror, of Ormancleith's incomprehensible nature that ensnared Speed's every thought. When everything was said and done, Speed trudged toward his favorite spot in the fake city, on a chair overlooking the godly realm's depths. Finally, he let the last of his essence go, and his consciousness faded. The constant flashing of memories was over, and Sofia soon regained her senses, just in time to see Speed appear right next to her. She was sitting on the ground next to the chair. I think it worked, she told him, the blur around the zone starting to fade. There was now nothing special to see there aside from an empty chair. Conflicting emotions swirled within her mind, but she was quick to come to a conclusion. This story she had just seen unfold was something that she absolutely could not share with the current Speed, if only to prevent him from ever attempting the same stunt and meeting the same end. Oh, thank fuck you're fine. Got me scared for a second there, Speed answered Sofia with a sigh. And you just ran in to see if I was alright despite it being potentially dangerous for you? Sofia asked, pointing at the fading clouds of blurriness all around them. I'd rather not see anyone die in my home, you know. Especially not someone I'm trying to date. Stop, you're going to make me blush, Sofia joked, grabbing his hand to stand up. Looks like I got your home all cleaned up, no more blurry corpses ruining the view. Thanks for that, I guess. I would not mind making you blush, it would be concerning if you managed to blush in that form, though. Maybe I'll work on that, Sofia answered, Her thoughts still enraptured by the old speed's memories, thinking back about it, she wanted to ask a question, actually, a weird thought, but... Do you find this kind of essence body more attractive than a physical one? I'm wondering how that works, since the previous speed also ended up with a human. Speed laughed, shaking his head, not at all, no, though it feels more natural to be like this. I grew up around mortals and this is what shaped who I am now. To begin with, it makes little sense for someone with no need to reproduce to be attracted to women specifically, but here we are. So, I very much prefer looking at you when you look more human. Well, your demon form is not bad either, aside from the head. Hey! What's wrong with my demon head? Sofia pretended to be offended. You mean aside from the mouth the size of your entire face? Ha, we each have a good and a bad head then, guess that makes us even. What, you don't like a guy who's got a divine rune for a head? You can use it to enchant boots and vehicles for a speed boost, by the way, but you have to actually punch in the holes, not draw them. Really? Interesting, doesn't that steal some of your essence, though? Speed shrugged, usually people are happy enough with the added speed that I get the spent power right back, it's a pretty neutral thing to maintain. Most gods do something like that with their rune. Gives us more places to observe the physical world from, too. Hey! Speaking of divine runes, this is what the first letter you gave me was about actually. Here, let me share a skill description with you. Chapter 586, Numbers Go Extra. Sofia and Speed chatted for about another hour before they left his divine domain and he carried her back to the swamp, where Saria began asking Sofia 1,000 questions about the date which had lasted almost a full day. Meanwhile Perith was away with Bookie and the plant mage skeleton in the nearby spirit forest in search of some plant, on Alitha's request. When Saria finally gave Sofia a second to breathe, she checked her ring. Gluttony, a ring from the lost epoch, given to mortals by the Annihilator. Must be primed to unlock advanced functions, 1/5 divine remains absorbed. Seems like proving myself to Uncle Annihilator isn't going to be that hard after all. She then quickly looked through Perith's vision, seeing that he was indeed on a stroll inside of the spirit forest. Stay safe, guys. Bookie silently turned around, facing Perith to give Sofia a thumbs up. Sofia cut the connection. He looks happy. Ah. Well, that was a nice break. Back to the leveling chamber I go. Oh, you're getting back in your mithril cube? Saria asked from the side as she stretched. I have to get those levels. You've left me in the dust, look at you, already at 299, what did you kill to go up so fast, even? It's not been that long since we passed the filter. Saria stopped stretching, she just took a few severed heads out of her storage ring. Sofia had no trouble understanding where they were from. These were all big monstrous birds. I just happen to be very familiar with a number of flying monsters that also happen to live right next to us in very very large numbers, she explained with a smirk. Right. And your class is all about fighting one against many. Has the situation out there changed at all? Not yet, Salvorn is still a pink hellscape. But I did meet a few elves out there while I was leveling, they're teaming up with a human group and some historian dwarf guy to try to get rid of the ebb, if I understood correctly, so things might change soon. I promised to go back to help them, actually, so I'll be gone about a week from now until who knows when. Wanna come? No thanks, I'd like to but there's too much on my plate already. Understandable. We're not going to get rid of the ebb easily anyway, or it would have already been done, so you can always join later. Sofia nodded, sure will. And speaking of joining, want to come with me to the next trial? It's a group thing apparently. Yeah, it's 4 people groups, Zafir told me. I wanted to ask you to join my group, actually, I'm going with Cynthia so we've got 2 spots open for you and Perith. Oh. It's 4 people? I promised Sun I would go with her Saintess. Saria laughed heartily, quite the sisters we are. Ever since we've reunited we've barely had time to do anything together except playing cards. I like our game nights, but you're right, we have both been quite busy, Sofia agreed, I miss spending more time with you. Ah, you're so cute, Sofia. How about we do something together after the next trial? Saria suggested, I'll keep my schedule open to take care of my lil sis. Sounds good. If you already know the answer there's no need to ask the question, Sofia answered with a smile. Sofia sat in the mithril cube with a half-formed angel bolt in her hand. You gained a level. She glanced at her status, confirming that she had reached level 299. Level 250, 299. But I'm not done? Seeing no immediate direction from Mr. Scribe, she decided to go through with this last rune carving in her own flesh, as it was where most of the stats came from, her stats actually increasing from the process of doing the things, rather than when she received the level up messages. She painfully traced another rune in herself with the bolt, like she had done about 200 times already, following the list of runes and places that her scribe had been providing her. Keeping an eye on her stats, she saw them keep going up. When she finished, she quickly did some mental maths and updated her stat gains on a bone slate. Total stat gain for 49 level. Health 3072, Stamina 2125, Mana 280760. To that she could still add the extra bits of health, stamina, and about 1500 mana points that she had just gained by finishing that last rune carving. That's almost a quarter of a level. Am I level 299.25? She then brought up the list of runes the scribe had given her. She still had quite a lot of them to go through. Can I just continue? To that question, the scribe brought up the custom system document page that said yes. And that won't cause any issue with the trials or anything. No. Alright. More stats, for free? Sign me up. Sofia continued, performing the entire level up ceremony a few more times until she got another level up message. You gained a level. This message was a bit scary, and for a second, Sofia was scared that Mr. Scribe had committed a terrible fuck up and that she had just become the most laughable of level 300s, missing an entire trial. Level 250, 299 EX1. Oh, thank the lords. So extra levels are a thing? How many can I get? From then on Sofia lost count of the number of times she had to repeat the leveling procedure, but it quickly became apparent that it rapidly started working less and less. Each X level being worth fewer and fewer stat points, until she reached the second to last rune of Mr. Scribe's list at level 299 EX22, which was worth a grand total of 5 stat points, 1 health, 1 stamina, and 3 mana. Noting the change on her bone slab, she sighed, and started filling up the mithril cube with mana again. Doing the last rune was absolutely not worth it, it would only eat up a few more hours of her time, and make her suffer for nothing, as the pain from the procedure did not get any better with repetition. But Sofia was committed to finishing the list anyway, if only to not be bothered by the annoying feeling of having stopped something before it was fully completed. This last run netted her no extra level, and a total of exactly 1 mana point. That was so not worth it. She internally complained, but looking at her bone slate recap and her status left her satisfied. Hard work was paying off. Total stat gain for 49 level plus X. Health 3765, Stamina 2609, Mana 342,944. Name, Sofia Afinareth. Age, 21. Class, Saintess. Subclass, False Lord. Level, 250, 299 EX22. Health, 925 566/1026 527, 20k plus, 20 * 250, 4k, plus 65k plus 736762 plus 200000 plus 3765. Stamina, 256 980/373 611, 20067 plus, 20 * 250, 4k, plus 183 269 plus 166666 plus 2609. Mana, 5 154 236/5 365 182, 319100 plus, 2k * 254 00k, plus 4603 plus 342944. Mana regeneration, 0.16%, plus other sources equals 11376/s. Mana regeneration in sunlight, 0.16%, plus other sources equals 27777/s. Very good, that's still a very decent upgrade to my mana reserves and regeneration, can't underestimate that. It also didn't take as long as expected. It's been what, under 3 months? And I only took 3 short breaks to check on Parith and Bookie. Not having to sleep helps a lot. I'm not even a little tired. I should have unlocked 3 more skill opportunities from the dagger too, that could be interesting. Maybe. If I had more free skill slots. Speaking of which, isn't it about time you let my skills level up, Mr. Scribe? At first there was no answer. Mr. Scribe? Sofia asked again. Is everything all right? Did we break something with the extra levels? Then Sofia collapsed from a sudden and unexpected jolt of pain. Spine of the Black Sun reached level 263. Summon Blood reached level 258. A new soft evolution choice was unlocked for the skill, Summon Blood. Maiden Banshee reached level 268, LV.268. Graveyard of the Righteous reached level 277. A new soft evolution choice was unlocked for the skill, Graveyard of the Righteous. False Immortality reached level 4. Skull Choir reached level 292. A new choir array formation is available, Patrol. Runeforged Overlord reached level 292. Summon Self reached level 52. The pain faded as fast as it had come after Sofia's internal mana circuits all finished rearranging themselves. Most of these level ups were about what Sofia had expected, they lined up well with how much and how efficiently she had used the skills since the trial. What was unexpected were the two soft evolution targets. I can understand the graveyard. But Summon Blood. Chapter 587, Bloody Hell. Sofia glanced at the evolution list for Summon Blood and she could barely believe her eyes. Oh my fucking! Is this real? Who would? How? Why? Available soft evolutions for Summon Blood LV.250, plus 8, levels will be conserved, you do not lose the capacity to summon regular blood in addition to the evolved blood. Summon Archon Blood, the Archon Blood is a lot more expensive to summon, is highly toxic, corrosive, and volatile. Summon Bloody Blood, the Bloody Blood converts all nearby liquids to blood as long as it contains sufficient mana. Liquids revert to their original form after a while. Summon Centaur Blood, the Centaur Blood has decent healing properties for cheap but must be drunk to work and tastes awful. Summon Daunting Blood, the Daunting Blood possesses a faint fear aura that may scare off creatures of a lower level than the skill. Summon Electric Blood, the Electric Blood shocks on contact and is extremely conductive to electricity, allowing for the transfer of very high current. Summon Fart Blood, nobody knows what kind of abomination may have once lived with this blood within them, but it exists, and it stinks. Summon Ghostly Blood, it only exists in the spiritual plane. Summon Holy Blood, the Holy Blood is prohibitively expensive to summon, forces the body and soul to restore to blueprint, increases lifespan and charisma, up to a limit, and is toxic to demons and the undead. Mr. Scribe's note, we are a demon. Summon Instant Blood, very cheap and lightweight, the instant blood comes dehydrated, just add water. Summon Hormungandr Blood, drinking the Hormungandr blood grants the temporary ability to withstand high pressures, see in the dark and breathe underwater. Its presence sends aquatic creatures into a frenzy. Summon Kinetic Blood, redirects most of the mana cost to velocity instead of quantity, allowing for the use of deadly high-speed blood projectiles. Summon Leviathan Blood, no protection provided. Mr. Scribe's note, I fear that it might be genuine. Summon More Blood, improves the mana to blood quantity conversion. No other effect. Summon Necrotic Blood, the necrotic blood sticks to the undead, providing them with strong healing and protection, but greatly slowing them down. Summon Odolite Blood, the blood of the extinct Odolites is rumored to be the best liquid for magical materials tempering. Who knows whether the rumors are true? Mr. Scribe's note, no information or mention of Odolites found in my data. Summon Plant Blood, it is sap. Summon Quality Blood, the taste is divine, should one have such inclinations. Summon Random Blood, the composition of the random blood is decided through an unstable molecular binding array, creating different results for every cast. Summon Sofia Blood, it's yours. Summon Tantalizing Blood, you do not recognize the bodies in the blood. You do not recognize the bodies in the blood. You do not recognize the bodies in the blood. You do not Mr. Scribe's note, I have no idea. Summon Urchin Blood, the urchin blood naturally forms into serrated blades that will strike at any nearby movement. Its strength is proportional to the agglomerated amount. Summon Virtual Blood, the virtual blood exists only in the mind of the target. Summon Worm Blood, attracts worms. Use with caution. Summon Yin Blood, sadly does not improve one's martial constitution. Mr. Scribe's note, I am pretty confident this one is just underworld water. Summon Colidal's Blood, consumption will lead to violent and uncontrolled mutations. Feeling lucky? Summon Zesty Blood, a few drops will make any alcoholic drink taste marginally better. Soft evolution, hey. This is all but soft. This is crazy. How is the other one? Available soft evolutions for Graveyard of the Righteous LV.250, plus 27, levels will be conserved. Graveyard of the Crusade, the Graveyard skeletons are now able to fully come out and attack, inflicting spiritual damage. Graveyard of the Nymphs, the Graveyard skeletons are now undead nymphs capable of bringing you in and out of the spiritual realm much faster and healing the land. Graveyard of the Arbiter, the Graveyard is now home to a single gigantic skeleton with access to a few spells of the Arbiter class. Oh good, at least this one is normal. And the choice should be easy enough. I don't know what the Arbiter class spells are, but as exciting as a gigantic skeleton sounds, it's not practical. Unlike the Summon Blood evolution, this one doesn't say I keep the previous version so I would be stuck with that one guy. It's just bad for tight spaces or battles against many enemies. Though I guess these will become rarer at higher levels, but even then, I would rather keep the current Graveyard boys, honestly. So this leaves me with the two other choices. Sofia stopped to think for a second. The choice between the two other options wasn't as clear-cut. Both of these are straight upgrades, but not in the same way. The Crusade would allow the skeletons to move around much faster, and considering how many of them can come out, it makes the Graveyard somewhat of a certain death zone for my enemies. The one point I'm a bit scared about, though, is that they might not be able to fly. They always used to be stuck in the ground, so it wasn't a question, but now if they're able to leave, are they more physical or more ghosts? How fast will they be, really? Scratching her head, Sofia mumbled to herself, do I even need more damage, in the first place? Do I just take the nymphs, then? I thought that was just another name for dryads. Am I getting a dryad graveyard? The healing the land bit feels about right for dryads, maybe? Going in and out of the spiritual realm faster is definitely good, and might prevent another bird from pecking my head out of the ground like a worm situation. Kept the restore keyword all this time only to get an alternative through the Graveyard, ironic. Let's go with the nymphs then. Sofia was quite certain of her decision, but she did not actually pick it right away, turning her attention back to the daunting wall of text that was Summon Blood's soft evolution. One for each letter. I didn't think the high scribes had that much free time. Leviathan is the obvious standout, and it's not even close, but whether picking it has any merit is another question. It's bound to be extremely expensive to summon and ridiculously dangerous. If my own spell's sole purpose is killing myself, I'm not too sure I see the point. Other than that, Summon Sofia blood is quite something. Are we speaking my old human blood? My current blood light? If blood light, is it a copy, or is it actively summoning it out of my body? I could probably find a way to use it either way. But I would rather pick something that's immediately obviously good. Faced with too many options, Sofia opted for her preferred method of listing and categorizing all of the possibilities. She organized the bloods in 4 categories: the funny or useless, fine and safe, gamble and safe, gamble and risky. Funny or useless, bloody, daunting, fart, ghostly, instant, plant, random, virtual, zesty. That's already a third of the options gone. Like farts? Really? Anyway, good start. Should I add quality in there too? Its only uses really are to give Asti good presents and generally get more money from the vampires. Not entirely useless, but also. It's not like I lack means to make money. I might be in debt right now, but that's only because I bargained with taxes right before needing so much mithril for leveling. I'll just put it in fine and safe. Fine and safe, centaur, Hormongandr, kinetic, more, necrotic, quality, urchin, yin. About the same amount of options for this one. These are all good, taking any of these is certain to not be a bad choice, whether it's an actually useful choice is another matter entirely, though. I'm quite tempted to just believe in Mr. Scribe and take yin blood. An unlimited supply of underworld water is honestly just great, knowing how potent the stuff is. The planet's blood. I wonder if there's an opposite hot water. Would that just be magma? Well, now for the gamble categories. Gamble and safe, Archon, Electric, Holy, Odolite. Getting to the real head scratchers now. Archon might be a fine choice just in terms of offensive power, or it might not. It being toxic and all I'm not too worried about, I mostly surround myself with skeletons anyway. Electric might work great with the bolts, or it might just be useless and a waste of energy compared to just using the bolts by themselves, probably not something I would pick. Holy is great, just that I can't use it. But having this as an option to extend the lifespan of low-level people is definitely not to be overlooked. An Odolite. Well, if it performs as advertised, it's great, especially since I can count of Grandma to make things for me later down the line. But the description itself doesn't sound sure that it works. So a big gamble. And that only leaves me with the weird choices. Gamble and risky, Leviathan, Sofia, tantalizing, worm, colloidal. So. Leviathan is still on the table, Sofia blood I think is a no, tantalizing is also a no, because I already have aberrant sunlight and it sounds similar, this leaves worms and colloidal. I'll pass on the random mutations, I think, although it would definitely be one heck of an experimentation tool for skeleton harvesting purposes. Yeah, no, let's not. If I summoned some and someone else got their hands on it and started using it on people, I'd rather not this even be a possibility. This leaves me with a final question, what is a worm? Why capitalized? Is it some kind of abbreviation, or are we talking huge worm so big it needs to be capitalized? Sofia ended with a shout that she knew no one would hear from under the tons of red sand the mithril cube was buried in. Because I definitely do not want to attract that one giant sandworm from the red sand desert. Sofia shivered just remembering the sheer apocalyptic size of that thing. If she had to guess, it was probably still, even now, one of if not the largest damned creature she had ever encountered, even counting the sunless Nightbringer and the deep whale. Yeah, fuck that. She scratched the worm off of her bone slate with a swipe of her fingernail. Chapter 588, Unlimited Woodworks. Sofia was in the middle of the swamp, away from her city foundations and leveling pit, which were closer to the southern coast. She had dried up a large section here just by sparring with Saria with a piercing bolt as her sword. Here the swamp plants had died and the mud was dry and full of cracks. Standing there, Parith and Bookie were waiting next to Sofia. Parith seemed to actually be the one most excited to see how the spell was going to turn out. All right, let's see it. Graveyard of the Nymphs. The mana spewed out of Sofia, much more than usual for the graveyard, but that was expected from the updated skill description. Dead trees started sprouting out of the swamp's dried mud like a cursed forest. From 50 mana per second to maintain to 10,000. This better be worth the 200 times cost increase. The nymphs started climbing out of the ground, much like the original graveyard skeletons. Only 10 of them? They appeared around Sofia in a wide circle, bones of dark wood striated with glowing green currents emerged from the ground, the nymphs' ghostly forms swirling around the wooden bones. As they climbed out of the mud, lush green grass and flowers wildly sprouted around them. Short. The first nymph to fully be out of the ground was about Olith-sized, with short twig-like wings like the fairy skeleton, and if Sofia had to describe the appearance of the ghost, it was like a plant dryad. Whereas dryads had a body entirely made of wood, nymphs had wooden bones and a more leaf-like plant matter body. They looked a bit more human than dryads, but not much. One by one the 10 nymphs came out, patiently waiting for their orders. They had a clear air of innocent mischief to them that was hard to describe. The center of the graveyard was already like a small garden. Every second that Sofia waited, the grass was growing taller and taller, more and more strange plants growing out of the previously dry and dead ground. Hard to believe those are still the graveyard skeletons, Sofia expressed her disbelief. Bookie tugged on her robe. Sofia, Sofia. Look, the tree, he excitedly told her, pointing at something behind her. The growing grass had reached the closest of the graveyard's dead trees, and it had only taken a few seconds for the tree to start growing taller and sprouting with new leaves. Oh whoa, can they surround that tree, she ordered, and the nymphs followed the order, gliding above the grass with their thin ghostly wings. Sofia heard one of them giggle, which was strangely unsettling, and she watched as the surrounded tree started growing much faster. She could hardly believe her eyes as the tree kept growing and growing. Can you make it even taller? Even bigger? Is it going to stay? This small dead tree of an unknown species that had sprouted out of nowhere was rapidly reaching tens of meters in height, and following Sofia's request to make it even bigger, the nymphs placed their tiny skeletal hands on the trunk, further speeding up the process. Sofia was bewildered, and couldn't believe her eyes as the tree kept growing and growing, so much that they had to step back as the trunk was becoming so big, as the roots were upheaving the nearby ground. Then, it all stopped. With a piercing headache, Sofia stumbled, caught by Perith, who looked concerned. Aha! Ah ha ha ha, Sofia laughed happily, thanks for catching me, Perith. It seems I just ran out of mana, she explained. Looking past Perith's concerned fiery eye sockets, all Sofia could see was the lush green canopy of the giant tree overshadowing them. For once what I bring is not destruction, she whispered under her breath, nymphs are incredible. Sofia glanced at the skill again, and at the small flask Alith had just handed her containing about 3 drops of shimmering pink liquid. Mockery of the divine, your body feeds on the essence of the divine, piercing the realms through them, and keeping them hostage within the shadow of mana core prisons. By arranging the mana cores within your body in the shape of divine constellations, you can gain a limited hold onto their absolute domain. So this is supposed to help. Any idea what will happen when I drink it? Sofia asked Alith, who had recreated this potion from the Demon King's recipe. Not in the slightest, nope. Half of the ingredients I'd never even worked with before. I'd try it on myself if I had more, but this is all I managed to make with the herbs we had, so there wasn't really any to spare for testing. Well, we're about to find out, then, Sofia nonchalantly said as she opened the flask. I'd pinch my nose and quickly swallow if I were you, the taste probably ain't great, Alith suggested, and Sofia did as she said, quickly gulping down the pink liquid. She felt a burn as the potion travelled down her throat, and felt it clearly pierce into her, and plunge straight for her mana heart. The sudden collision made her a bit wary, but nothing else seemed to happen after that. Well? Alith asked. It fused with my mana heart, I think. But hey! That's it. Alith shrugged. Hat. I expected a bit more considering all the reagents in there, but I guess getting no side effects is good. Maybe try your skill again, now. Not like it's a real skill, I just have to recreate divine runes by moving the essences around, but as you know, it's only ever given me a headache so far. I should try sun or sorrow first to be safe. Maybe we should go outside, don't want you to trash my lab, yet. Sure. Let's check up on Remia on the way out, Sofia agreed with a nod. Didn't you say you did that on the way in already? Alith asked, following Sofia out of her laboratory, which was the entire upper floors of the Zangdar castle where Zhang Lu previously had his own labs. I just want to check again. I wanted to show her the nymphs, but she has been sleeping so soundly these last 3 days I didn't want to disturb her. Alith nodded, she's starting to wake up more often these days, though never for long. It won't be long until she can start staying awake for more than a few minutes at a time, I think. Maybe the nymphs will help. I still can't believe you grew this massive tree in one go. I can't believe it either, but it's hard to miss now. I feel like soon we'll have a regular forest right next to the spirit forest. Might need to be careful about that, maybe leave a bit of a buffer zone between the two, wouldn't want the nasty things from out there to cross over. True, Sofia agreed, looking through one of the castle windows. Looks like she's still sleeping, she remarked, looking at Remia, who had been relocated to the glowing Lumion bone forest where she was initially born. Ah well, better that she stays here while we're out testing your new powers anyway, could be dangerous. A few minutes later, under the shadow of the nymph tree, Sofia was drawing Sun's rune on a bone table, deciding how to spread the essences around. Like that? 19 essences is a good number for this, honestly, Alith commented. I have no idea what I am doing, to be perfectly honest. Isn't it always like that with godly stuff? Just try and see. Alright. Sofia focused on the essence cores within her. They were like empty physical and spiritual balls roaming within her body, displacing her flesh and soul as she moved them, but she knew for a fact that these hosted the divine essence, just that she couldn't see them at all from the physical plane. Slowly, she rearranged them to form Sun's divine rune of weirdly stacked triangles, drawing the larger edge of the first upside-down triangle in her shoulders, with its lower point around her belly button. This took 13 of the 19 essences, then with the remaining 6, she drew the 2 smaller mirrored triangles, one in her neck and one in her upper chest. Then, like she felt needed to be done, she moved her mana heart to be at the center point of the rune. There's something. The potion worked. Sofia felt a calm heat rise within her chest, as if something was warming up for a big reveal, then all of a sudden, it derailed, and she clutched her chest with a yelp as the essence cores were thrown in disarray. Alith was there to help, and Perith had instantly teleported in. Still failed? Potion didn't work? Alith asked, seeing that Sofia looked more annoyed than in pain. No, the potion worked, it definitely did, I don't know what it did, but that unlocked something. I was able to go further than usual, but it failed midway through, as if it felt a bit like a being in a carriage falling off the side of a mountain road. I don't know how else to describe what went wrong, Sofia explained. Maybe Sun's rune was a bad choice? Could just be that Sun is too powerful and it's messing things up. Alta guessed. Maybe, but I don't know. I feel like it was almost there. Let me try again. Alright, don't push yourself too much, it took me a while to get a hold of my new racial traits too. Sofia nodded, rearranged the essence cores, and tried again. The result was the same, but she understood the failure a bit better this time. The rune was unstable for some reason, one side seemed to warm up faster than the other. Is it because the two deep runes are on that side? Sofia shared her discovery with Alith, and following that, they worked on rearranging how Sofia drew the rune, spreading the essences around so that the EV was relatively well balanced with one deep rune on both sides and the sun and death essences positioned symmetrically across the rune. This failed again. We're close. I can tell. So close. Sofia rejoiced. After a few more tries, she noticed that putting Sun's own essences at the extremities seemed to work better. She tried one final time, placing Sun's essences at the point of every triangle. Sofia finally accessed the main feature of the Lumion race. Mockery of the Divine. Chapter 589, Fake It Till You Fake It. As if she had been doused in oil beforehand, Sofia immediately burst up in flames. The fire was violent and quite strong, but it seemed content to envelope Sofia's body, not spreading anywhere else. Sofia. You good? Alith asked, only mildly worried. Sofia observed her hands through the flames, waving them around and watching how the fire reacted. I am, yes. Doesn't hurt at all, it barely feels hot, even, but it does hinder my vision a bit. It's interesting how it doesn't seem to spread. Well, good, considering how close we are to the tree. I can confirm that this fire is hot, from my perspective. I am immune to fire though, so I can hardly show that. You look a bit sick, Sofia remarked. This reminded me of the day I died. Not often that you get to see people get engulfed in flames. Good that I'm not next in line this time. Oh. Sorry, I completely forgot about that. It's nothing, doubt you could have guessed this is what was going to happen to you anyway. Looks like you've got your own fire immunity now. Maybe. Or the fire is fake. Looking sideways, she turned to Parith. Why don't you try? Never mind, you'll be immune too since there's no way it burns for 10% of your health. Should we call Bookie to see if the fire can burn anything at all? I don't think that will be necessary, Sofia commented. This is a bit weird, but I can tell I'm only pulling energy from one of Sun's essences currently. It feels like I can make the flame stronger if I try to use the rest, but also, I don't know, this skill is strange. I really do get the feeling that I am stealing power. Well, you got the essences after all, so in a way you've stolen the power already. True. Well, so far this is mostly just a fire immunity, I guess, it's really not bad. Doesn't cost me any mana either, Sofia explained, expelling a bit of her mana to see if it reacted to the flames. While it did not, there was something else that caught Sofia's attention. She looked up. Alith and Parith also looked up. Felt something? Is Sun about to fall from the tree branches or what? Alith asked. I was just thinking that we're completely in the shade of the tree right now. But my upgraded regeneration in sunlight is active. Alith immediately picked up on what this meant. Now this is juicy. Bookie. Get your bones over here. Did you just use the banshee scream to shout louder? Sofia asked, astonished. Yeah? Didn't activate any of the effects though, don't worry. It's basically just voice amplification magic at this point, Alith explained with a smug look. I will never get being so proud over inventing new ways to be obnoxiously loud and noisy, Doppel commented out of nowhere, prompting Alith to punch herself in the chest. Ouch. I suppose that was uncalled for. But I would remind you that you are 2 weeks late on that meal you promised me. Alith started to blush. I was busy. You should know about it. We'll go shopping for a few chest plates later today, alright. Much appreciated. Sofia observed their back and forth, still covered by fire. Is it me or has Doppel gotten a lot more polite? Alith sighed, we got used to each other, I guess. On the other hand, I feel like Perith has gotten less polite, she commented with a raised brow. Perith's jaw dropped at the accusation, but he also couldn't say anything back. I see what you mean. He's not been doing much of the polite bows and gestures lately, but I'm pretty sure it's just because of his skeleton, his habitual gestures look a bit out of place with the hellspawn abomination, Sofia defended him. And he vehemently nodded in approval. That's so? I thought maybe he was mad because of the whole date thing you've been doing, Alith casually said with a shrug. Sofia turned to look at Perith, completely stunned at the idea that Perith might have any kind of romantic feelings for her. That was just not something she could imagine. Is it like that? She asked, feeling now that this was dangerous territory. Thankfully, she was immediately reassured by Perith's visceral denial. His body language couldn't lie, he was not interested in her like that, but somehow Sofia felt some mixed emotions about that, mostly relief but with a subtle distant tinge of disappointment. Aha! See, it's really not like that. Perith is more like another sibling, at this point. To begin with, I don't think we could make a very healthy couple, considering how we're linked, and the fact that he can hear my thoughts, among other things. Perith nodded in approval with all three of his heads. Also, despite his maturity, he is technically only like 5 years old, which, you know, doesn't mean much for a skeleton, but yet, Sofia added. Yeah, fair. Well, maybe if you don't date him I will, Alith deadpanned, which was followed by a long silence. What? He may look like that now, but with the draconic shape-shifting he's bound to be able to become the most handsome guy ever, no? Not only that, but it'd be fine with me because I know you so well and I'm holed up in my laboratory all the time anyway, but what other girl out there is gonna allow her man to be with another woman all the time? And well, he's got a pretty decent personality if you just ignore the fact that he can't speak, so. I'm just saying, she continued with another shrug. Perith disappeared into Sofia's storage ring. Perith? Sofia looked down at Alith. I think you scared him off. Just between us. Were you serious? When have I ever lied? Alith answered with a question of her own, before looking far behind Sofia and waving, Hoi! What took you so long? Bookie was running up to them, his book form under one arm and a bunch of wild flowers in his other hand. Bookie only answered when he got close enough. I was picking flowers to make a crown, he proudly answered, showing the blue and yellow flowers he had picked. He then turned to Sofia, but why is Sofia on fire? This is my last racial skill, Sofia explained. Alith called you so we can try something. I thought it'd work by now, Alith said, but I guess not. After all, it doesn't look like that fire makes much light, so I suppose it's not too surprising. I don't really get it, what do I need to try? Bookie asked. Give Alith the flowers for a second, I don't want to burn them by accident, Sofia told him. Bookie nodded and gave Alith the flowers and his book. You don't mind? He asked. Of course not, now go out there and give Sofia a hug. Bookie looked a bit destabilized by the order. Is that what you wanted to try? I already hug Sofia all the time, he answered, but turned around and walked up to Sofia anyway, lifting his arms up in the air for her to grab him. Are you not worried about the fire? Sofia asked as she bent over to be closer to his eye level. It doesn't feel dangerous, Bookie answered, sounding quite confident about it. Alright then, let's just try touching fingers for now though, just in case. I don't want to hurt you, Sofia continued, extending an open hand in front of him with a smile. Bookie reached out into the fire and grabbed one of Sofia's fingers. It's hot but it doesn't hurt, Bookie said, letting go of the finger, astonished by the word fire, taking his hand in and out. Sofia's smile grew wider. Leave your hand in and look at it really closely, you'll understand what is happening. Bookie nodded and did just that. He observed his unharmed hand within the fire. It was hard to see amidst the orange fire, but his hand shone with a faint golden light. The blessing! Bookie almost shouted. Sofia, you can do sunfire, he excitedly asked. Well, I wasn't exactly sure but now I am. Yes I can, she answered, before giving Bookie's arm a surprise yank. Now come here for the promised hug. And now to try the other runes. Chapter 590, The Slot Crisis. Sofia played around with the flames for about a minute, noticing that what it burned and what it didn't was pretty inconsistent, until she started to feel a strange pull, as if the essence cores in her chest were being held back by something. The flames started to weaken and sputter. Running out of energy? Alith asked. I have no idea. Maybe the energy of the divine essences is depleted. Sofia guessed, there was no clear explanation for what was going on. That fast? You didn't even do much besides burning a bit of grass. I know, I find it weird too, but there's no oath. Sofia started, but stopped as the flames completely burned out. Ah! It just turned off by itself, she explained. Maybe Auntie Sun wanted her power back. Bookie guessed from the side, sitting in the grass and clumsily trying to weave his flowers together. Maybe? Let me see if I can activate it again, Sofia said, before trying and failing to activate Mockery of the Divine once more. Strange. How does it feel? Is it like trying to cast a spell with no mana? Alith asked, but Sofia shook her head in denial. No, it does feel a bit like a sore muscle? But it's really very faint. Calibration successful. Oh? New resource tracker created, you may change its name. New resource? System notifications. Alith asked, seeing Sofia's eyes moving left to right as she read invisible lines. Yes, it says I got a new resource that I can name myself, but no further precision. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's right there under my mana, look. Health, 1026 527/1026 527. Stamina, 373 589/373 611. Mana, 5365 182/5365 182. Divine penalty gauge, 100/100. Ooh. That does explain it, you were bringing power over from the gods' plane so you get the penalty like the gods do, Alith commented. I guess so? It should go back down to 0 by itself then? Hopefully? This is worrying, though, since I wasn't doing much at all and I only had the flames on for like, what, 3 minutes? That's not a lot. For a fight, that's plenty, Alith said, but it's not like it would be very useful in a fight so far. I am relatively certain that it can do more, especially for Sun's rune. It felt like this was really only pulling on one of the 5 essences, so I might be able to make it stronger. I'm guessing that using more divine power would accumulate the penalty faster, though. Maybe there's a way to increase how much penalty you can handle? I wonder if giving you your first bit of resistance to it isn't what the potion did. Maybe you can make the gauge bigger with more potion. Worth a try, Sofia agreed, but the ingredients are going to be a pain to find in larger quantities. Oh, it's gone down to 99. Already? It can't have been more than a minute. At this rate you can try again in under 2 hours, that's not so bad. Yeah, that's fine, I have quite a few runes to try so it's good that it's not going to take forever. I wonder though, if using a recessed rune in the physical plane will result in a harsher penalty. It probably will, won't it? Seems likely, Alith said with a shrug, though I have to say, all the divine power stuff is confusing. Like, look at the divine items, they have no penalty, don't they? That would be because they are not people, Doppel chimed in, an object, such as I, is a lot more stable than a person, thus we suffer much less from dimensional strain. This put a stop to Sofia and Alith's discussion, both of them stared at the piece of clothing on Alith's chest. You seem to know a lot about divine items, hey, Alith told the mysterious chest piece which has always adamantly refused to give any explanation about its origins. I've already said too much, my seams are sealed. Doppel answered, before returning to his usual mutism. So. The divine penalty for gods coming over. It's just dimensional strain? Like. What's also known as planar drag. The thing that happens when we teleport? And that's what makes Parith unable to talk? Sofia asked, though she did not expect an answer. Seems like it. That would be a surprisingly plain way of explaining why most gods aren't able to come. I don't know why, but when I heard you explain the divine penalty thing I was imagining something more magical. Alith commented. Same, but I guess it's not? Down to 98, by the way. Should I rename the resource to planar drag? I'd think of a better sounding name if I were you. The name is just a name, it doesn't have to be correct, I guess I could call it divine power or something. Actually, first, Mr. Scribe, is it possible to invert it? Just make 100 be 0 and 0 be 100 so that it works like the other resources and depletes as I use it instead of being a counter like now. Mr. Scribe instantly executed her demand, and the line changed from 98/100 to 2/100. Better. And I guess. Just call it Divinity. Good name, Alith approved with a thumbs up. Divinity, 1/100. Yes, much better, Sofia said with a sigh, but yet another line on my status sheet. This is getting ridiculous. And I still have 3 skills waiting to be made from my level ups. And I literally only have 3 remaining slots. Just fuse some skills, Alith suggested with a shrug, or delete some old ones. Like, really, you don't have to keep mine. And let you die if something happens? Sorry but no. Maybe if you get a resurrection skill of your own, I'll think about it. TSSK. You know, I've only ever died once in this world, and that was because I played with fire asking for something I shouldn't have. I have a much better track record than you with staying alive. And I'm undead. You don't have to worry so much about me. Sofia frowned, maybe I don't have to but I do. Actually. Here, she said, shoving a small orb in Alith's face. Hey? Isn't that your reward from the academy? Damn right it is. Sofia answered, pulling up the description, take it and copy false immortality. Then I can delete your skill with some peace of mind. Skill Capture Trademark, 042, Skill Capture Module Limited Edition, and Degree 42 out of 100. Activate to record the magic spells currently being used near you. You may choose one to learn as a permanent special skill. For non-system magic, results may vary. One-time use item. Limited to 1 capture per person. It was Alith's turn to frown, taking a step back. Are you crazy? It's your reward, not mine. I'm not taking it from you. What use is it for me? To copy a skill that I won't have a free slot for? I would have given it to Saria if she didn't have a resurrection skill already, but she does. You're the next best target. I'm flattered I place so high on your list of people who shouldn't die but come on, I can't take it, Alith refused, pushing back Sofia's hands. Besides, think about it, your unlife runes are terrible for me. I rely on my stamina regeneration to even stay alive with my specialization. This would only cripple my ability to fight, she argued. Then copy Saria or Cynthia's resurrection skills. Cynthia has one. Alith asked, I don't know. I could see Saria's skill working, but doesn't it also require having the Dragon's Den one that she has? That would be 2 skills. It doesn't, you can keep the gold on you in a storage ring or near where you slept the most in the last 6 months, and that also works. And you can make plenty of gold with your candies, so it would be a good fit, Sofia argument. Are you really sure you want to do that? Just imagine the kinds of spells you might be able to get for yourself. I would feel guilty taking it from you. Really? I've not even repaid you for all the stat candies you have been making. I would say I'm indebted to you more than the other way around. I need to think about it. But again, you could just delete my skill and be done, I really don't mind. I thought I had made myself clear. Either you take Saria's respawn, or I keep the skill. Do you really value the skill slots that much? Alti, I absolutely need the 4 skills of my subclass, non-negotiable, and I don't even have that many free slots total right now, and I cannot get any more. Alith stared at the orb, her chest tightening. This was Sofia's reward, something priceless. How could she take it, knowing it might mean giving up a once-in-a-lifetime chance? After a long hesitation, she sighed, and finally grabbed the orb Sofia had been showing in her face the entire conversation. Fine. I would be dumb to keep refusing. I'll take it, but I will need to make it up to you somehow. Finally. 1 more free slot. And well, speaking of making it up, I know just the thing. What do you say about going on a small adventure together? I might need some help, and it's going to be extremely dangerous. I don't even have the skill yet and you're already making plans for us to die together. Alith asked with a smirk. You'll need to find someone else to take care of Remia while I'm gone from Zangdar, but I'm in.